Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and today I'd like to talk about what is the best for muscle building. Is it free weights or is it machines, or does it even matter? Now, I've been bodybuilding for since I was 17, so I'm now 40, so that's 23 years. So I've got a good amount of experience in lifting both with free weights and machines and with cables and all the other nice things that are in gyms. I have a gym myself with lots and lots of equipment in, so I have a lot of experience here. I've competed at bodybuilding shows, won a lot of bodybuilding shows, lost some, but I have been in the game for 23 years, so I've got a good amount of experience here, and I've also coached hundreds of athletes, hundreds of people who wanted to transform their body. So I have a good amount of experience to bring on for this subject. So I'm not going to really talk about research studies and stuff like that in this video. I'm going to talk about my own experience really. There's a time and a place for quoting research studies and stuff like that. And actually, if I'm honest, I think on a YouTube video where most people are watching for a bit of entertainment and a bit of like easy access knowledge, I think quoting detailed papers is not probably the right place to do it. And certainly none of my clients really care about where the papers come from. They just want to know what works and what doesn't, and I'm in an informed place to tell them. So that's what I'm going to discuss on this video. So in terms of what's better, free weights or machines, you've got to remember that when you're trying to build muscle, the important thing is to remember all you're trying to do is trying to apply resistance to the muscle to make it fatigue, so that the muscle sends a signal to its DNA to say, please, I need to get bigger and stronger to handle this load. And the DNA sends back a message called mRNA, messenger RNA, and that goes to the muscle and it says, please get bigger so that you can lift more weight. So that's about as technical as I'm going to get in terms of the biological sense of it. But in terms of providing resistance to the muscle and overload to the muscle, that's the important thing. So you can do that with both machines and you can do that with free weights. And free weights, I mean dumbbells, barbells, anything you pick up that isn't on a fixed linear motion. And by machines, I mean things like the machines you get at a gym where you sit in and you've got one plane of motion that you go through, up or down, back to back, whatever else. Some machines in gyms now are built with what's called free motion, and so they're on certain pivots and certain bearings so that they can move freely. So that's sort of like a hybrid between machines and free weights. However, what I would say is those machines are still on pivots, they're still on levers. There's no real danger in terms of if you drop it, you're not going to choke yourself with a bar or something like that. So they're sort of towards free weights, but they're also in the machines aspects of it. I've got a few of those machines in my gym as well. They're very, very good. And I would say that every single machine, every single piece of equipment has its place. In terms of people talk about, oh, you must squat if you want to build big legs, you must bench press if you want to build a big chest, those sorts of things. Actually, for years, I was unable to squat because of a shoulder injury, as in a conventional squat. I did front squats, I did Smith machine squats, I did a number of squat variations, which wasn't a rear bar squat, and actually grew a quite substantial pair of legs. And it was only after I had a shoulder surgery I was actually able to go back and do rear squats again. And yeah, my legs did improve more because I had more variation. I was able to do more exercises. But I built a decent pair of legs from doing things like front squatting, leg pressing, leg extensions, walking lunges, which many people don't do, but it's one of the best leg builders you can get to, single leg stuff. So I went for variation and different stimulus over crying because I couldn't do a squat. That's just one example. I couldn't bench press, as in flat bench press, for years because it hurt my shoulder, and I picked up a number of injuries doing flat bench press, so I didn't do it for ages. And actually, incidentally, my major injury that I have now, which I will have forever, which was a disc out in my C6, C7 on my spine, that was caused by doing a flat bench too heavy, which I went back to flat bench after a number of years to try and have another go at it. Did it all with correct form, great form, was lifting 4 plates a side, which is a lot of weight, and did it with correct form, racked it, felt fine, and a couple of hours later the disc was out. So very unusual injury, but I must just like to say that you know those sorts of things I did bench for years. I did an incline bench. I never did flat bench for years and years. still grew a decent chest because I did flies, I did pressing on cables, I did dips, I did all other different exercises. I didn't just do barbell bench press, and I didn't do barbell rear squat because I couldn't because of my shoulders, and I worked around those injuries and still built a body which was awarded first place in many competitions. And so what I would say is you don't have to always train with free weights, but at the same time I think that if you're only going to train with machines, you really are going to limit yourself, because there's a certain thing that you get from lifting free weights, a certain balance. You have to balance the bar, you have to balance the dumbbells. That sort of learning experience, how the muscles learn to do that, doesn't really happen when you've got machines, because there's no element of balance, there's no risk factor. You can press one arm on a machine and it would still move the same way than you would if you press two machines. But if you lifted one arm with with a barbell or a dumbbell, it would be a completely different experience. You'd have to balance everything differently. So you would learn different coping mechanisms, and your body would learn different coping mechanisms. That being said, free weights are very good if you're looking to completely target a muscle. So say, for example, something like a pec deck is quite good if you're looking to target the pec in the bringing the arm across the chest motion, because two of the functions of the chest is to extend the arm out or to bring the arm across. So if you have a pec deck, you can do that very easily without thinking about balancing it or anything else. You can just contract the muscle against the resistance of the machine and get a very good muscular stimulus for it. So where you might sort of guess I'm heading here is that you want to incorporate all these factors into your workout. Now, I do workouts with bars, with dumbbells, with cables, with machines. Most of my workouts feature a number of the different variants in them. I hardly ever really just do a barbell workout or just do a dumbbell workout. I mean, I do program those sorts of things for variation, because a lot of my clients sometimes go into gyms and there's only dumbbells or there's only bars. So I do have programs written for that specific eventuality, or specific situation, I should say. But it's not something I would encourage all the time. And I have worked with clients who only got a garage gym, so they've only got a barbell and a couple of other little weights to work with. But again, and then they have got results. But I've always said to them, look, these results would be better if you could go to a gym. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Sometimes you have to just work with what you've got. However, if you have got access to a gym, I would suggest that you want to get the stimulus of all those factors, because if you're working with bars all the time, like I said before, the beneficial effect of the balance will come into play, but after a while, potentially lifting the bar is going to fatigue you more than the actual movement itself. So say if you're doing an overhead shoulder press, for example, lifting that bar above your head and standing and lifting that bar above your head is going to take a tax on your legs, on your back, as well as your shoulders and your triceps. However, if you sat down into a machine and were just pushing up and down through a lever press, you can actually focus more on the shoulder movement there, and you can also limit the tricep involvement by putting your arms in certain positions, that sort of thing. You can actually do that with a machine and not worry about the balance, whereas you wouldn't be able to do that with a barbell. Same with cables. Cables, I would say I see people doing too much weight with cables. I see people doing cable crossovers, trying to really max out the stack, and all they're doing is just ripping their shoulder to shreds. Cable crossover is one of the most overdone and actually badly done exercises I see in the gym. Treat cables for what they are. Cables are providing a constant resistance on the muscle. Now, yeah, you can do cable chest press on the cable machine. And that's something I do quite often because it allows you to get more stretch on the shoulder without pushing more stress on the shoulder. But I'm never going to try and lift 70, 80 kilos a side on a cable, because the actual fact of pulling it down, the stress that presses on the shoulder, getting into position, all those things are going to come into it. And you're probably going to hurt yourself getting it into position rather than the benefit you're going to get from the movement. So if I was doing, say, cable press, for chest, I would treat it for what it is. I'm trying to stimulate the chest. I'm trying to keep constant tension. I'm not looking to get a PB on that, because no one really cares about a PB on your cable. And actually, if you're a bodybuilder, you shouldn't really care about a PB anyway. All you're caring about is stress on the muscle and providing that muscle with enough resistance for it to grow as big as possible. So maybe that's something you should be thinking about as well. And as a bodybuilder, because I work with bodybuilders, and by bodybuilders I mean people who are trying to gain more muscle and lose body fat. So that's anybody who's trying to improve their body, not hardcore competitive bodybuilders, because that's a different league completely, and I don't work with that market anymore. Everybody I work with is looking to build their body in some respect, in terms of building more muscle, building better glutes, building better arms, building better chest, losing body fat so they look better with those muscles. That's the ethos of bodybuilding. It's not getting as massive as possible and being fat, it's getting as massive as possible, big as possible, and being in lean condition. That's the ethos of a bodybuilder. So that's what I do with clients, and that's what we're working towards. So for that goal, we're looking to provide the maximal stress to the muscle in order to make it fatigue and grow. Now you can do that with a compound movement, say it's like free weights. So say bench press is a compound movement because it uses the chest, the shoulders and the triceps, and a bit of stabilizing from the back and the rear delts. So it uses all those muscles to provide the movement, whereas a chest press on a machine is generally only going to be a little bit of front delt, mainly chest and some tricep, but you can actually fiddle with that to make it more chest if you want to, and you can work about with the tensions and the tempo and stuff like that without the risk to yourself of dropping the bar on you. So to answer the question, it's not really a question of which is better. What it really is what is better for what purpose. And whenever you get to whenever you get to an exercise, look at it and think, what am I trying to accomplish with this exercise? And if the first thing in your head is, I want to show that guy over there how strong I am because I'm in the gym and I've got an ego, that's the wrong thing. You shouldn't be thinking about that. You should be thinking, how can I use this exercise to build my body? And to build my body, what I'm talking about is how much stress can I use this exercise to place on the muscle to make it grow as big as possible. Now I've done bench press with a bar at the end of my workout when everything else is fatigued, and I've just done very, very low weight with slow controlled movements and then forcing the contraction through the chest at the same time trying to pull the bar in with my hands. So you pull the bar on the chest there at the end to squeeze it out. It's a very good movement and it provides a lot of tension and a lot of activation on the chest, but most people don't do it because they look like a weakling when they're bench pressing. They don't want to look like a weakling when they're doing it. I don't care about that. I don't care about how much weight I'm lifting. Well, maybe not now. I'm 40. When I was maybe 22, 23 I did. But now, because I'm a bit older and I can't handle the sort of weights I used to lift, I am definitely more thinking about what is the maximum amount of stress I can place on the muscle in my brain without causing myself an injury, because I am over 40. And I suppose as the older you get, you will get this thing where maybe you should be thinking about, is this going to injure me if I go too heavy? Should I go a bit lighter and do more reps? That's certainly a consideration when you're over 35. That's from my experience with my clients, experience with my trainers. Definitely don't go for PBs anymore. It's not worth it. You can't brag about something if you're in a wheelchair. You can't brag about your squat when you're in a wheelchair. It's not going to be good. So, and of course I don't mean any offense to people in wheelchairs from that, but I have seen a lot of people of a certain age trying to relive their youth with their efforts in the gym, and they generally tend to get injured very badly. So please don't make that mistake. If you're over 35, 40, more likely you're going to get injured from doing those sorts of lifting. Don't do it. If you're looking to bodybuild, looking to get a better body, you don't have to go maximal weight for that. So use the machines for what they are, for providing a good stimulus without the risk of balance. Use free weights for what they are, providing good balance, allowing a lot of muscles to be trained at the same time, providing a lot of stimulus and a lot of calorie burn. And use them for what they are. Think about what I'm doing when I get into this exercise. What am I trying to accomplish? It's not always about going as heavy as possible. For me, it's never about going now as heavy as possible. It's how, if I go heavier, is that going to allow me to stimulate the muscle more? Or if I go slightly lighter, do I have more control over the muscle? Can I get more reps, more stimulus to the muscle? And is that going to make it grow more? That's what you've got to think about when you're going into the gym, when you're training. It's more intelligent thinking. It's not ego driven. None of my workouts now are ego driven. I'm not as strong as I was, and I will not ever lift the stuff I used to lift. So it can't be ego driven. It's got to be thoughtful and suppose evidence-based type thinking. You know, is this going to benefit me? What are the pros? What are the cons? So I hope that was a helpful video. I hope you got something from it. Of course, I'm talking about my own personal experience with a bit of what I've read chucked in and my experience with other clients chucked in. Other people might disagree with me. That's absolutely fine. It's okay for people to have their own opinions. It's okay for people to argue and discuss their opinions. These are my opinions. Of course, my opinions are based on the research I've read and the evidence that I've read. I'm quite happy to be corrected by people coming with a couple of seasoned papers to say, look, here is evidence to the contrary. However, I still know that I'm over 40 now. I need to lift a certain way to make sure I grow without actually injuring myself. A lot of the research papers that are done on people in their prime, and you've got to take that into account. So do think about how the research is done when someone's throwing a paper at you and saying this is the best way to train or the best way to do this. Look at the age group that it was tested on. There is a difference. I won't go into that now in terms of other things that make a difference, but it is a difference. If you're older, there is a difference. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you got something from it. Please leave a comment, share if people would benefit from this, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.